Hi guys, it's Beth from Bourbon Creek Crafts here, and today I'm sharing how I made 2 cards using 2 pieces of pattern paper and had no scraps. So for my cards today, I'm using the Woodland Critter 6x6 pad from Scrapping for Less, and I'm also using the Sweater Weather stamp set from Paper Sweeties and the Autumn Blessings die from Scrapping for Less. For my cards, I'm using some craft cardstock for my card base, and it's your normal A2 size card, but I trimmed off 1/2 inch on the right hand side of that front flap of the top flap, just so that you'll be able to kind of get a peek of the inside of the card as well. So I did pull in some brown cardstock from my stash to go with the 2 sheets of pattern paper that I'm using. And I trimmed my cardstock down to 5.5 inches by 3 3/4. As for the pattern paper, I cut it down to 4 inches first. So I took that 4x6 piece and cut it in half. So I had 2 3x4 pieces from each pattern paper. And then that left me with a 2-inch strip that I then cut down to 5.5 inches. And then again to 1 1/4, or cut it at 1 1/4. And so then that left me with a 3/4 inch strip. And so the wider strips going on the outside of my card, the thinner strips going on the inside of my card on the far right hand side. And then I'm using one of the bolder patterns as well as one of the more solid patterns together on the front of the card. So I kind of work both cards together, trimming the pieces and getting things kind of laid out together for both cards, just because that's easier. That's how my mind works. And I did want both of those bolder patterns represented on each card. So one is the strip, and then the other one is the top 3x4 inch piece on the front. So here I'm just trying to figure out where I want to go with that strip, if I want to go all the way to the edge of the front or leave a little bit of the brown. And I decided to leave a little bit of the brown just for some added interest. And then there's the strip on the inside. So this one I'm using the plaid and then the darker orange pattern on the inside. I just thought this was kind of a fun, nice change of pace than your normal A2 card. It's not really a fun fold card. There was no fun folding, just trimming off 1/2 inch of the front. So I did pre-stamp some of the sentiments or some of the images from the stamp set, the mug and the sweater, and then 2 sentiments I stamped together are the cozy and sweater weather, and I did those all on cream cardstock. And then I also die cut the Autumn Blessings out of some brown, the same brown cardstock I use on as my card mat, and I did cut it twice and glue those together already. So I have it's 2 layers. My die cut is 2 layers. So you saw that I die cut some stitch circles out of that bottom pattern paper layer, so you're not going to see it where I cut the hole in it, but I wanted to use those patterns to back my circle images that I had already pre-stamped and punched. So I didn't want to have to go into a new sheet of paper. I was trying to make use of the paper that I already had out. So I did back both of those circle elements with some of the more solid of the pattern paper. And so on this one, I'm using the Fall Sweet Fall mug, which I really love that mug. And I didn't color it because I didn't necessarily want the focus to be on the color of the stamps. I kind of wanted it to be, like in the colors in the pattern paper, and then the emphasis to be on the die cut. So the die cut does cut in different pieces. So I laid it out on my card just to get an idea of where I needed to start the A, and then to make sure everything kind of lined up correctly. So I'm using the tweezers that automatically stay closed unless you pinch them. Those have been a game changer for me. And so I'm using those to hold the thin letters while I'm adding my art glitter glue. And I think the hardest part was just trying to dab the glue so I didn't squeeze out too much at one time, even with the fine tip. But I do like how the 2 layers came out on this. It was like just enough depth for me. I don't like having a whole lot of dimension on my card fronts just because of for mailing purposes. but this was just enough. It made the die sturdier, and it made there's just enough dimension that added a little bit of extra interest. So I'm adding that last U in the word autumn, and then I have the dot to the I. And I did lose the second dot, so I'm only using one layer of dot for the I, but I think it's fine. No one's going to notice, and it's tiny anyway, so we're going with that. So there's my first card, and I said I was leaving no scraps, so I had it was a 1/2 inch by 2 inch strip, and I'm just going to add that to the inside of the left-hand side of the card, and then that way it used up the whole piece of paper. So now I can work on finishing off my second card. So here I'm just adding that 3x4 the plaid pattern on top of the more solid orange, and then I'm doing the orange kind of at an angle just so it peeks out from behind. And for this one, I'm going to be using the stamped sweater that I had pre-stamped. And then I combined, when I was stamping, I combined the words, the sentiments cozy and then sweater weather on my MISTI and stamped them together so that it made one sentiment. And then here I am adding that last little strip that I had. And I decide to pull in the brown cardstock that I used for my card mat. I'm going to back my cozy sweater weather sentiment with some brown cardstock. So I just trim that down, and then I'm going to trim off the ends of both layers and then add fishtails to both ends. I just felt like the sentiment needed more color behind it as well. So here, this is how I cut fishtails. If I have 2 layers, I butt the end of the end that I'm cutting. I butt both ends of the layers together and then cut the fishtail, because I cannot cut. If I were to try to do them separately, they would never be even. So this is kind of my hack to make sure that my fishtails line up on both ends, like for both layers. So once I get my sentiment on the cardstock layer, I am going to overlap the circle just the tiniest bit. I felt like it looked better bunched up than it did if the sentiment would have been separate down below. So that's why I did that. But here we go. 2 cards, no scraps, 2 pieces of pattern paper, and a little bit of cardstock. So I hope you guys enjoyed these cards and can give them a try. I will link all the available products in the description box below, as well as the coordinating blog post. But thank you guys so much for your time today, and I hope you're all having a crafty day.